Hello and welcome to this introductory case study in this course, Agile Human Resources. So, in this lecture, we will talk to you about a case study of mastering Agile HR and setting up an Agile Human Resource Organization. And here is this case study about mastering Agile HR and setting up an individual at an individual HR leaders level in an agile organization. So let's take a look at what was the situation. And this case is about a name mask, face mask, Elena Novak, you know, who is a HR manager in a 1,200 employee tech and services company, not a small company, and is located anywhere in the world, works with team across multiple countries. And as a background, she is strong in traditional HR in terms of policies, recruitment, performance appraisals, compliance. But she has a long way to go in growing in agile concepts like sprints, backlog, cross-functional squads, and often seen as a policy gatekeeper, not a strategic partner. So that's where Elena Novak is today. But her goal, she has a goal. She has a goal to master Agile HR and set up an Agile HR organization that is faster, more responsive to business needs, and more employee centric and better integrated with Agile product and tech teams. So that's where Elena is. So let's dig deep into the challenge. The company has already adopted Agile in product and IT teams. They use Scrum, sprints, stand-up meetings. They have cross-functional squads. They do rapid experimentation. But HR was still working in a traditional, slow top-down way in terms of performance appraisals that were annual, long generic job descriptions, competency frameworks that nobody read, and policy heavy onboarding, recruitment taking 90 to 120 days. Leaders complain, obviously, the business leaders in the company. Our product teams move in 2 week sprints. HR moves in 12-month cycles. As acidic as that. We can ship features faster than we can hire engineers. They used to tell each other. And performance reviews are demotivating and late. And in one leadership offsite, the final thing was when the CEO said our HR is still operating like in 1990s admin department. If HR doesn't become agile, the whole company will slow down. And now Elena felt exposed and challenged, and she realized that if she can't support that, I can't support the agile business with a low agile HR. I must learn agile HR and rebuild how HR works. So she had to turn this traditional management into an agile management working in HR. Right. So what was the turning point? How did the things change? So Elena started reading about agile HR and asked herself, what if HR is not services but product for employees and managers? That was the starting point. She said recruitment could be a product, performance could be a product, learning could be a product. And she further reflected and said, what if instead of us using HR processes that we roll out this year, she began asking what problems do employees and managers have right now and what can HR do to rapidly experiment to solve those problems. So that was new thinking that she had. And this mindset shift was the foundation of our agile HR transformation. Right. So that was the turning point. Let's continue with the story there. So what did she do? So first step was she met with the product owners, like, engineering leads, sales managers, selected employees, and people who were leading the teams. And she asked them, what did she ask? She asked them, what frustrates you most about HR today? That's a brave question to ask. What is too slow and too rigid? What HR process would you like to change if you could? And the top points, pain points that emerged were like recruitment is too slow, we are losing candidates, there is a chunky annual performance cycle with irrelevant feedback, Training is not aligned to current skills, uh, we need to uh, we need to train people to work in squads. Policies are written like legal documents, not helpful guides. And then she turned these into a prioritized backlog, agile HR backlog using impact versus effort. And her top priority was to make hiring faster and more agile for engineering and product roles. And she chose very wisely to start with one major challenge and not try to fix everything. And that was the priority she started working on. So what did she do? So she formed a cross-functional agile HR squad. Instead of working uh, of HR people alone, this hiring accelerator squad was formed. It had two HR recruiters, an engineering manager, a product owner, a hiring manager representative, a data analyst, which is part time. And all of them then agreed, all of them, not Elena didn't tell them, to work in 2 week sprints, which with a very clear goal that was agreed with her to reduce average time to hire for critical roles from 90 days to 45 days in 4 sprints, 3 to 4 sprints, 8 weeks in total. And then they set up a backlog of tasks and experimentation in line with HR working. They started a daily stand-up of 15 minutes, and then they started reviewing sprints and retrospectives of how well they were working. And first time, the HR had a squad as they were doing sprints, they had a backlog, they had velocity, and they had experiments. And this was now Agile HR in action, right? Then the team decided to do small experiment, not big redesigns, which is again the Agile way of working. So sprint one focused on in the sprint one they focused on speed of screening that they were doing for hiring, and they identified several problems there. Now, what were the problems? The one of the problem was the CV sat in boxes for days, in boxes of people, and hiring managers delayed feedback. Then they decided to do experiments. What kind of experiment? They set a rule. They set a rule that all CV must be screened within 48 hours. They created a simple scorecard for quick yes and no decision. They used Loom and recorded short Loom and recorded intro by hiring managers to attract candidates. And they had a weekly progress dashboard shared with all stakeholders. And what was the outcome after sprint one? Screening time dropped from 90 to 10 days, from 10 days to 3 days. Sorry. Screening time dropped from 3 days to 3 days from the 10 days. And hiring managers appreciated visibility and clarity, and squad felt the early momentum. They reviewed, kept what worked, and dropped what did not. So that was the first sprint that did. In the second sprint, they focused on, uh, candidate experience, right? And there they found what were the what were the issues that they observed as a team. That there were multiple rounds of interviews with repeated questions and no clarity for candidates on timeline. And they ran experiments then to combine interview rounds where possible in panel format, shared a candidate journey email with steps and approximate timeline so that people were aware, created a bank of non-repetitive behavioral questions to eliminate the repetition and send short personalized follow-up, using template after each stage. So that's what they did. And what was the outcome after the sprint two? Dropout rates reduced, right? Feedback from candidates improved. They started saying process feels more professional, and interview cycle time reduced from time to hire came down to 60 days now. Right. So that's what happened. And they used the combined the third sprint, the sprint three and four, and they're focused on decision speed and offer acceptance. And there they identified the problems as, offer delayed by approvals and candidates shopping, multiple offers. So they experimented again. They experimented with pre-approved salary bands for common roles. delegated offer signing authority to hiring manager within bands, and introduced 24 to 80 hours, 48 hours rule for final decision after last interview, and use short why join us personalized note for from the future team lead with offer. And as a result of that, uh, the total hiring time dropped to 43 to 45 days consistently, and offer acceptance rate improved, and business leaders saw real change, and the squad had hit its initial goal. So after the success of the hiring, Elena decided to build the agile ways of working into other HR areas. In performance management, she formed a performance management squad within a whole idea of replacing annual reviews with quarterly check-ins and continuous feedback, and experimenting with team goals aligned with agile squad. The second squad that she set up was on learning and development. So it's where with the mandate to find instead of year-long L&D calendars to build monthly sprints of micro learning and provide on-demand sprint-based learning modules of 2 to 3 weeks. And the third that she did was an employee experience squad where they were to use pulse surveys in short cycles, run experiments on onboarding, recognition, and internal communication. So here, as you see, HR itself has started working like a product team, right? Small squads, focus missions, sprints, feedback loops, and data-driven experiments. So how did Elena personally master Agile HR? Now, Elena just didn't change processes. She changed herself. She learned basics of Scrum, Kanban, backlog, and user stories. Started writing HR tasks as user story. Say, for example, as a hiring manager, oh, I want a simple scorecard, that I can screen candidates quickly and fairly. Shifted her mindset from HR knows best to let's learn and test with users, employees, and managers, right? And she started using retrospective after each HR sprint, like what worked well, what did not, what shall we change in the next sprint. She also started saying HR is not a rule enforcement function, and HR is a service and policy design function for people and performance. And this change saw now leaders saw her from policy manager to agile HR transformation partner. So that's how Elena transformed herself as well. What were the outcomes of the agile HR transformation? For the business, time to hire for critical roles reduced from 90 to 45 days. For performance processes, once in a year form filling went to quarterly outcome focused check-ins, discussions. Employee engagement score improved, especially on HR understands our needs and speed of HR support. Right. For for HR itself, HR teams felt more empowered, creative, and connected to business outcome. HR stopped launching huge, inflexible programs, and HR became known for fast experiments, MVPs, minimum value processes, viable processes, and iterative improvements. And for Elena herself as an individual, she was recognized as head of Agile HR transformation and invited into strategic planning discussions and became a coach for Agile HR for other HR managers in the system company. So these were some key outcomes of Agile HR transformation. So let's summarize what framework did Elena use for this transformation. So the first, it was Agile itself, AGILE for you to remember easily. A standing for aligning with business agility, where kind of questions you ask is where is business already agile and where is HR blocking it? And some examples of this is identifying a high pain area like hiring, performance, and focus there. Then gather real pain points by asking what frustrates employees and managers about HR today. And that you do by, for example, doing interviews, listening deeply, turning complaints into a backlog. The third step is to implement HR squads and increments in HR itself, sprints. And there the key question is how can HR work in cross-functional squads with short cycles? And you do that by building small agile HR squads that run 2 to 3 week sprints. Then you launch experiments, not big programs. And there you focus on the smallest change that you can test now. And you pilot new ways of hiring, feedback, onboarding with a small group. And finally, you evaluate and evolve continuously by asking what did we learn, should we keep, what should we stop. And there you use matrices like time to hire, engagement, NPS, and retrospective. So that's the framework. So what is the final insight? Mastering agile is not about using agile buzzwords. It's about changing how HR thinks and works. From policy pushing to continuous experimentation and service of people and businesses. For an individual HR professional, building excellence in agile HR means learning agile concepts like sprints, backlogs, user stories, MVPs, treating HR service as products that must be tested, iterated, and improved, working with cross-functional squads, not isolated HR silos, right? Measuring success with real matrices like speed, engagement, experience, and performance, and being willing to try, learn, and adapt instead of designing the perfect processes on paper. So that's what we have for you as a final insight. So what do we do next now? What else? We get on with taking a look at the overview of Agile HR process, and we begin by answering the question, what is Agile? We've answered somewhat, but let's do it more systematically as we go forward. So thank you so much for watching this introductory case study. I hope you're continuing to learn new things, continuing to enjoy, and I do look forward to see you again in the next lecture. Please feel free to message me if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer your questions, and do download the PDF file to take a look at anything that you need.